I'm a hustler, baby.
It's time for Hustle Her podcast. I'm your host, Deshae Keynes. Hustle Her is all about inspiring women through real life experiences that have helped to mold and develop not only me, but my guests into the entrepreneurs and leaders we are today. If you're an enterprising woman determined to succeed and looking for a bit of motivation, a bit of tough love, and some actionable takeaways to be the best you, girl, you are in the right place. Hey guys, and welcome back to the podcast. As a reminder, do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you head over to the website hustleherpodcast.com and sign up to be on our VIP list. You get some early access to episodes number 1, which is really important, and then number 2, we do some really cool giveaways with some of our sponsors, and you also want to be on that list to get that information. Now, I'm really excited about our guest today. Not only is she amazing in her career, but she's also my friend, Alexa Lightbourne.
Hello,
love.
How are you?
I'm good. Why do you look like nervous a little bit?
I am. Just a touch. And I think, what I was saying to you off camera is that to talk on camera is not really an issue, or even to talk isn't an issue. But to talk about me is like a different space for me. But let's do it.
You can do it.
We're gonna make it happen. We're gonna make it happen. We're gonna make it happen.
All right. So let's start out with a few rapid fires,
All right.
just to kind of get juices flowing, and then we'll jump right in. Yeah.
All
right. Let's go. Celebrity crush.
It's funny because the whole thing about your auntie, Idris is also one of my celebrity crushes.
I mean,
the British accent, and I didn't even know he had a British accent initially.
Really?
I heard him with Chris Brown. There was that show. I can't remember the movie. He was like a bunch of them. The crime movie.
The Christmas movie.
No, it was another one. Anyway.
Yeah, that one.
Pure American accents. I was like, okay, this man's great looking. Got a little walk on him, and then.
At the British
accent is like different dimensions. So
that's the truth.
He's definitely on the list.
I get it. Mm-hmm. All right. Favorite color?
I'm between black and gray.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, can't tell today, but I do wear a lot of black.
Yeah, usually. And black is easy. It doesn't show, muck.
Very slimming.
Correct. Very slimming as well. And definitely post children, it is in the clutch because more than likely there's a juice stain somewhere.
Can you imagine Lex 3 years ago? This completely different story, right?
Used to do an all white number. Now it's
anymore.
Not going to happen.
All right. What's something you make well, like your go-to meal to cook?
This is a wonderful question. Go-to meal to cook. I do like salmon. Salmon, a little asparagus. I really enjoy that.
It would be healthy.
Easy, yeah. And easy though. Everything's in the oven. Salmon, asparagus in the oven.
There you go.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
All right. Dogs or cats?
Dogs, for sure. Yeah.
Sure. 100%. Favorite song right now?
I've actually been pulling up on the Lauryn Hill, I Gotta Find Peace of Mind.
Okay.
I don't even know if that's the actual title, but that is
the one.
It's hitting. It's on repeat right now.
Definitely. Just don't go to any of her concerts anytime soon.
Really?
Yeah, I went in January. Very disappointing. Very disappointing. It was. People were leaving. It was so bad.
Because she took so long, or her performance?
No, she was on time, but the performance is like her vocals are gone. She is not. The Lauryn Hill of To Zion back in the day. No.
Oh man.
She almost sings. It's not like. Yeah, don't do it. Yeah, it's really sad. All right. Favorite show you're currently watching?
Favorite show I'm currently watching. So I'm into like Netflix
Okay.
Random series.
Yeah.
So just watched the Jeffrey Dahmer.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's intense. So that's one. I also watched the Mormon Keep Sweet. Also very interesting. And it's a lot to do with like how people think and what kind of gets people in certain environments. Like I'm very interested in it. So I deep dive. So so both of those.
I get that. I was the same with what is it on Netflix? The guy who had the fertility clinic and took the 23andMe test.
The fathers.
Our fathers. That
also watched that. Shook, right?
Shook. Literally sitting right here. I was like, the whole time. No, seriously. Could not believe it.
Seriously.
And the fact that they couldn't charge him with anything at the end either was also wild. Sorry if you haven't seen it.
I know.
But yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. And then lastly, what was your last impulse buy?
Last impulse buy, probably plane ticket. That's usually where all my impulse buys are. Plane tickets, random. Yeah, I'm going. I'm gonna go. Let's go.
I feel that on a spiritual level.
Yeah.
All right. So walk me through Little Lex. Like, what was Little Lex like? Primary school. Like, what did she love to do?
I loved to explore. I was definitely one that loved new environments, and I'm still the same way now. I went to many primary schools here in Bermuda. So born in Bermuda. Often I get that question, are you Bermudian? I'm like, yes. But went to BI, Elliott, interestingly, and Work Academy. And I think it was mainly the multiple schools was about my mom kind of finding the right environment for me. And then after that, we up and went to Arizona. And she was doing her doctorate. She chose a school that was best for her and that specific degree that she wanted to do. So I went with her, and she had a choice. She could have kept me here or left me here with family or grandparents, but she chose to take me with her. And initially, the experience was exciting, but you don't know what you don't know. And then the more I kind of reflected on it, it was quite a bit tumultuous for my identity as a woman, as a Black woman in Arizona, which was 2% Black at the time. And so you're going to the grocery store and you're seeing a Black person, and you just want to be their friend because you may not see another one very soon.
Get it.
So that was a lot for me. Only Black girl at my school, called the N-word, like, and not knowing what this meant. And so that was an experience in itself, but it's definitely shaped me for the better. And I think it's really just given me a different perspective. Initially, it could be a little hurtful as a young person. But growing up, you look back and you're like, okay, I can honor this experience for what it is, and learning about different types of people. So I went to Arizona. I played 3 instruments: piano, violin, and sax.
Can you still now, if you picked up a saxophone?
I have one song I can still play on the piano. Two, and it's not like chopsticks. 2 songs I can still play on the piano, and violin I could probably pick up at any point. I learned violin. I could play violin by ear, but I couldn't play piano by ear. And I could read piano music better than I could read violin music, oddly, because violin's just one clef. And saxophone, that's a no. I think that I have to let that go. That's a past talent. My mom was like very strict on like practicing and all of that, and I felt that I was happy to learn these instruments because it allowed me to enter pageants and all sorts of stuff. But it also felt like restrictive. Like, I don't really want to do this. So I enjoyed it because it was really fun, but I never felt that I could completely create in that space because it was like, your teacher told you to practice this week. So I felt a little claustrophobic and conformed and restricted, I would say, is the best word.
So what other hobbies did you do growing up?
I ran track.
Were you quick, or were you like long distance?
Short, sprints, actually, So I used to do 100 meters, but didn't really take it seriously. I actually feel like if I really like did it properly and was focused, I probably would have been a little bit more successful. But I just kind of didn't take it too seriously either. So yeah, here we are. No track scholarship for me.
Track scholarship for me. So what did you want to be growing up?
Initially a hip hop violinist, like international. Like Mary Ben-Ari was my girl. And so much so that when I did Miss Team Bermuda, as a part of the end of my reign, I had a concert here. I was like, I'm going to bring her here, and had a concert, got to play with her at City Hall, and it was.
I do not remember that.
Very random.
I love that though.
Gave money to the Sunshine League, like at, I don't know how old I was then, but I wasn't 18 at the time. So yeah, it was something that I wanted to do, and kind of fused my interests, my hobbies with an opportunity to give back. So.
Nice. That's really cool. So then how did this morph into law and everything else you've kind of done? When did that change? Yeah,
it was definitely upbringing, kind of telling you, lawyer, doctor, teacher,
very
kind of
so.
were my options. And also you're really good at public speaking. This is going to be, you're good. You always argue with me. You should be a lawyer.
Girl, the amount of times I heard that, girl.
Right? And so I was like, okay, cool. So I studied law, and I had interest in it, but I knew very early that it just wasn't for me. And so I had to kind of figure out, how do I pivot? And I never even came to a conclusion about what that pivot looked like. But the journey kind of found me and morphed into the things that I now do. But I never, I knew that I knew I didn't want to be a lawyer. I looked, more at policy as a place that perhaps kind of like law adjacent that I could consider and do successfully. And I felt like it was more creative because law is quite rigid. The legislation's passed, and I felt that I could create the color that impacted people positively through the policy side of it. And I still do a bit of that in my work today. But yeah, I just knew very early that I did not want to be an actual lawyer.
But you went to law school. Like, you have a
in
law
London,
degree.
Yeah.
That's crazy. What was that like? Okay, cool. I'm in law. I have this law degree now, but hey, mom, I don't want to be a lawyer.
It was kind of like my house, my rules. So I'm out of the house. And so this is Alexa's journey to create for herself.
That's good.
And I never, a lot of people did say, you should have, passed the bar and all of that, but I don't really have regret. And sometimes I do, but it's regret based on what people are saying, not really because I feel in my soul I should have done that. So I just kind of shake that off as well. So no real regrets for not getting called to the bar. Being in law school in London, I remember quite early in, I think it was like an intro session, and the professor showed these statistics on the screen of like the success rate in the program. And I remember the categories. It was like male, female, Black, minority, ethnic. And of course the statistics were like so low, but I was like, well, are Black people not male or female? Like, it just rubbed me the wrong way as well. And I was sure that I wasn't going to be a statistic, but I was also sure that I'm not going to be just a number for them, right? So I got my law degree, but I knew that I just felt like this isn't really where I feel my calling, where I can really excel, where I can be my best self. This isn't necessarily the environment. I did intern with a local lawyer here, just to kind of see and understand the landscape. And we had some very interesting cases that we had. Similarly, realized this is a lot. Looking at photos, and it was criminal lawyer. And so looking at photos and interacting with this stuff, I was just like, I don't think I have it. Like, I don't think I could do this full time. So
I get that on a spiritual level. Like, I did day release because I wanted to be a lawyer as well. And I did day release at the DPP's office. And I remember sitting in a few of the cases and just being like, so you do this every day?
Yeah.
Like, you deal with this every day. I'll never forget, to this day, there was a case, someone importing a gun, and they had taken the gun completely apart and put it in a toolbox, like in this big chest of tools. And they had broken it down, and somehow someone managed to figure out that the gun was inside of that. I've never forgotten that. And then we also did a sexual assault case that I don't think I was supposed to be on, because I think I had just gone 18, so it was fine. And to this day, it still rubs me the wrong way.
100%.
But people do that every single day.
Correct. And you almost have to become numb, because I remember asking, like, how do you interact with one, because you're criminal defense, how do you interact with someone that could be guilty, keep their confidence, and sometimes they may admit to you, and you can't even, nothing you can do but defend them within these parameters of the law. And it's just like, not for me. So it was definitely a very, very easy no for me.
That's hilarious. So walk me through how you kind of transitioned into this consultant. Sure. I believe it was Deloitte first, right?
Yeah. No, actually. So I came back from school. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do next. After undergrad, you're like, crossroads. Do you do a master's? Do you do another degree? Do you come back? Do you stay? And the UK wasn't for me. I didn't really feel like I had a place there. They have the Asian community, they have the white community, they have the Afro-Caribbean community. They group us all in, right? Sorry. And
so they hear you start talking.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, well, are you American? Nope. So it still was a place where I just didn't feel connected as I could have been. Although I did start the Afro-Caribbean Society at my school, because there was none. It was a great opportunity to create a community, but in the larger London and living and working, I just didn't see my life, like settling there, etc. So come back to Bermuda. I'm working at the health insurance department, and IVM consultant actually. Sorry, let me backtrack. Before I got back and graduated, my last year, I wanted to do something interesting in the summer. And an IBM consultant, I was working at the health insurance on and off during my summer breaks, etc. Was like, do you want to come and work on the Obama campaign? And I was like, yeah.
Heck yeah.
I was like, but I'm not American. Like, what do I do? He's like, well, you can't get paid because you're not a citizen. But, you know, we have supportive housing. We have supporters who donate their homes, their cars, certain things to the campaign operations. And I can afford that to you, you know, within the parameters of our rules. So if you're willing to come on down. So I went and we were organizing, and I kind of understood the machinery, understood the software that they used. And really got my first dose, and it was very, very cool. You're meeting, you know, Kerry Washington and all these different people that come down as surrogates. And I really just fell in love with the fact that such a small community, because then that year, Broward, where I was working, was actually the swing area for the entire state of Florida.
Oh, wow.
So looking back,
Broward County,
yes, swung the entire state of Florida. So I'm like, that little bit of work that I was able to do impacted the greater Florida, and like by extension, and as an extension, the election itself. So I was really empowered by that experience, and just thought it was an experience, and moved on, graduated, came back, was working at the health insurance department, and the same individual who was American but was a consultant for IBM, who had experience both working in politics and like he was an analyst, was like, so the Obama campaign is done, and all of the organization, all the people have kind of just created these small clusters of consulting teams, and I've started to do consulting generally, like political consulting, etc. Do you want to come to Antigua, because we don't really understand the island stuff, but you know, you're from another island, and I feel like you would be a great fit for the team. And I was just like, I wasn't sure, and they took forever to send the contract and all the details, and I was like, this is not a real opportunity, like, but I just hopped up and went. When they sent it, I had like a couple days before my flight, and so hopped up, went to Antigua, and it just started the world that is consulting from there, and to St. Kitts, and also did some work in Grenada. So it really just, the journey was kind of, it morphed itself without me having to even overthink it or manufacture it or plan or anything like that. It just happened. So
laid the road out for you. So then how did you transition from there into the next step?
So before I left Antigua, I went to a couple of islands, and I actually got in a relationship with somebody who was living in Antigua. So I moved and kind of settled in Antigua. And
I did not know you lived in Antigua. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was
life.
Yeah. And it wasn't good or bad. It was just an experience, right? And settling in Antigua towards the end of that relationship, and after my political campaign work had ended, I actually got a contract working for a local company there, and was doing, because I knew, you know, the individuals who were in or in places of authority, I was able to kind of be like their governmental liaison, and like work with them to, you know, get meetings with cabinet, and, you know, talk about the policy considerations for a business that was trying to start up there. So work there, and there's a lot of kind of negotiating and understanding the market, and also bringing, you know, a foreign entity's idea to the local market, that cultural transition and affiliation. And I, even as a foreigner, I wasn't even Antiguan, but I kind of understood the landscape, and a lot better than they did, at least. And so when that contract ended and the relationship also ended, I applied for a job to work for Deloitte's consulting arm. They were starting up their consulting practice, and came back.
Yeah. So what did you actually do during that time? Because I think a lot of times people hear like a Deloitte consultant. What does that actually mean?
So they did both like process improvement work. They did feasibility studies. So it could be, you know, what does this look like to make this work, make this happen in a more effective way? It could be strategic implementation, or it's like strategy. It kind of like morphs into all different types of things. And each member of the team kind of had a forte, maybe process improvement, maybe strategy, maybe policy. And we bid on contracts and was able to help governments or organizations to do better. Yeah.
I Love that. Okay. I never thought, I didn't know that that's kind of how that Deloitte consulting
Yeah, and
thing
KPMG
works.
and EY, they all
They
have
all
similar
do
models.
it.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. I didn't know that at all.
Yep.
So, okay. So you're working at Deloitte and then what would it have been? 2017 election comes up for Bermuda. How do you make that transition?
So they were looking for a campaign manager. And I actually also worked in the 2012 election here in Bermuda. And there was, because no one else knew how to use the van, and the van is the same software that I learned how to use at the Obama campaign.
Got it.
Who knew that this software that used to drive me nuts would be, turned into a skill, and learned how to use the van, use that skill, as well as them needing a campaign manager in 2017.
Got it.
So 2017 came, and I was working at Deloitte, and I took time, unpaid leave, and supported the campaign. And it was an easy yes for me because I did it in so many other countries, and I had no direct benefit, but I felt the benefit, outside of getting a check, was that I would be able to have that proximity to change for my country or change for people in a way that was more tangible than it had been in other spaces.
Yeah.
And so, working in some of the islands, people don't even have like toilets in some of these spaces. And you're thinking, this is not the life that I know, but this is their normal. And so you're kind of campaigning for better for themselves without even them realizing in some instances. But for Bermuda, it's like real and a little bit more tangible change, because I knew my people, my, neighbors, my community would be impacted by that. So it was an easy yes.
Easy yes. So walk me through how that was, because you're coming in, you're a young woman at the time. Like, how was that leading the campaign? Like, did you have a hard time, not necessarily commanding respect, because I feel like you do that, but a hard time people grasping that, this younger woman is giving me orders, essentially? Yes. How was that?
Change is always hard. I'll start with that. Change is always hard, but I feel that my leadership style is not really the dictator type. I really do prefer collaboration. I really do like to have a conversation and us having a common understanding of what our goal is here. So if our goal collectively is to win, here's my suggestion about how we can get to that win. And so feedback and, really just having those conversations can help. There were some people like, who's this young girl? Interestingly. And I'm not gonna name drop. It's fine. But it was good because now we have the best of relationships, which is why I was gonna mention. But it just really was challenging, and even so, in the Caribbean islands, it's actually a lot harder.
Yeah,
it's
a little different.
A lot harder than Bermuda, because it was uncommon. You're at cabinet, and so I remember being in St. Kitts, and I would one of two women in the room, reporting, and it's intimidating.
Yeah.
You can sometimes be dismissed. You can be seen to be emotional or things like that. But I was often having to remind that I don't have any benefit to what I'm suggesting you do, and you have also a choice.
Yeah.
And so you can choose to take the advice, you could choose to not. But here's my best suggestion.
Yeah.
So that was definitely challenging, but something that you just kind of learn, and you learn about the strength of who you are, that you kind of don't have to mold or feel intimidated because of what could be or how they may perceive you. And so I had to really just be sure about myself and sure about what I knew and what I was presenting, making sure that it was, resourced and well evidenced, so that it was kind of a foolproof kind of presentation about my suggestions.
Yeah. And so the 2017 campaign was a wildly successful campaign for the party that you were the campaign manager for. Like, how did that feel at the end of it? Like, it wasn't just a regular, okay, we won by a few seats. Like, there was a significant number at that time, and the 2021. So how did that make you feel after that?
It is definitely a sense of initially gratitude. I felt really thankful that I had been gifted with this skill without even having to. I never planned to be in, political consulting at all. And this was clearly something that was meant for me to do. And so I was happy that there was a resounding response to the team that I was supporting, and that's what the people wanted at that time.
Absolutely.
So I felt good about it. But then the work really begins, right?
Yeah,
It's not about the election is the easiest part, truth be told. It's the after that really is will be remembered for the strengths and weaknesses. Like it's about the governance, right? So,
and that's also hard too.
Yes, right? It is very hard.
Because do you stay on as a campaign manager once that particular party wins, or like how does that work?
There is no. I have not always stayed on. There have been some that asked to stay a little bit longer just to understand, like to support transition. And it is a common model that they would have their campaign team support them in their early transition. I went back to work at Deloitte, actually. So I was kind of like in and out. That was okay for me. And so as an extension, I did not necessarily stay on, but I've always kind of still been in the background, which is where I really have enjoyed being.
That's funny because I saw you did an interview, I want to say at the last one, and I was like, I think this is the first interview I've ever seen Alexa do, because you're usually in the background making
at the last election.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was on. Yes. I think it was on election night.
Yeah,
that was the first
under
time.
Strict orders from my doctor. I should not have been. I should have been on bed rest because I was actually pregnant at the time. So it's a different story. But yes, I typically just prefer to be behind the scenes. And I also, because people often ask, like, do you want to be in politics? And I'm like, actually, maybe a previous Alexa may have had an idea about what her life could look like and had considered that maybe. But I actually prefer the behind the scenes. It's a little bit more muggier and it's a little bit more grungier, but I prefer it because I feel like you can really kind of silence the noise of things and focus on the work. So I definitely prefer the behind the scenes.
Yeah. So do you see yourself doing like the campaign manager, being a part of campaigns and teams like long term? Is that something you like want to do more of, or are you like, okay, I'm done?
So because my fiance is now also in frontline politics, it is it changes the game a little bit, as well as I'm not able to just get on a flight and go and do a 3-month campaign somewhere. And interesting, I've been called a lot recently and I'm just like, oh, this money would be great because no expenses for X amount of months, but I have a young child. So I do see that chapter as more or less closed for me. But the change that I do now in my work as a management consultant it kind of takes those similar skills. So you're still creating and providing support to make things, systems, people, organizations better. So I still kind of get that euphoric
kind of feeling.
Yeah,
for sure. So how would you say your upbringing kind of shaped you into the woman you are today? Like what were some of those core values and skills?
So I'm going to pivot a little bit because recently I was asked about if I had to do a 3-part Netflix series about my life, what would I call them? What would I call each episode? And I was just like, that's a really good question. Like, I don't know initially, but when I kind of sat in it, I would, without question, label like chapter 1, learning and unlearning, 2 as kind of the journey, and then 3 was kind of what's unwritten. And so my early days and the process to learn who Alexa is for Alexa was challenging ideas about myself that may have been instilled in me and owning as an adult what I wanted to continue to have. And so that I think that it's really a great place to explore for yourself, to really learn yourself, because it informs what you're drawn to. It informs why you do what you do. It informs consciously or unconsciously sometimes your behaviors and how you show up in places. And so the unlearning is not necessarily to get rid of, but just to either uncouple ideas that you may not now identify with, and also reassess and evidence the ones that you do. And so that was really, it actually was, after a breakup that I really had to like sit in, had to feel it and really had to also say, okay, why are you drawn to this? Why do you respond like this? What what is this really about? Is this, because of what you saw, images you saw of yourself, as a child, or what people have said to you when you were younger. And it could be in the house or just experiences, period. And so I think that's really where that journey begun, to really understand myself, saying what I own as my moral compass. And it really is about really just foundational, like love and happiness and, empowerment and also intention. So these are things that I would say kind of informs like my moral space and how I live life is definitely been informed by that period.
That's an excellent way to answer that question. Genuinely love that. I would have never thought of it like that. Yeah. But like what is something you like consistently like to learn about all the time in reference to anything? Is it you? Is it the business? Is it whatever? What is something that you're always like on the hunt to learn about?
I'm always I really want to be the best me in my lifespan. I want to live purposefully. Like, I don't want to be drawn to things that are not in alignment with my purpose. And that for me is where I do in my quiet time. I spend a lot of time listening to podcasts and different things that help to make me a better person. Because I don't even want to go down a road and then realize like, whoa, this is like, who is this person? I want to be like, okay, I am sure that I did this. I'm doing this with intention. I've considered all these things, and this is how I made this decision.
Yeah.
And so even, people sometimes can look at your journey and create assumptions based on what they think they know about you, based on how you showed up in a previous life, and previous life is like how you, before you knew, right? Different time, or based on how you showed up in a moment. And so that can sometimes be a little off-putting, but if you're just sure about that intention, I also feel like good things come. Like, the Lord is going to bless your journey when your heart is right, when you're doing things that you're meant to do. And the most wildest experiences happened and have happened for me and have come full circle because of me being true to me and true to my decisions, even when it didn't make sense, even when it looked a little crazy. I still did it. And I can look back and be happy with those decisions. Lots of mistakes. Lots of mistakes.
Mistakes are okay though. Yeah. Like, there's nothing wrong with mistakes. I think they make us better people, right? You learn, especially if you're learning from them. If you're making the same ones, me sometimes, if you're making the same ones, that's different. But if you're learning from those mistakes, you know what, I'm never going to do that again. That's key. Yeah, for
definitely.
Sure. So you mentioned something earlier about people coming up with their own narrative of who you are. What would you say is the biggest misconception about you?
There are a couple, and people often think that they know me, and they think that, maybe how I was as a campaign manager or how I was in an environment of leadership or otherwise defines who I am as an entire person.
Wow.
And how I show up at work is not necessarily the same way that I would show up in a social space. And it's not to say that they're different people, but I know what is required of me at that time.
Yeah.
And that requirement to deliver is what I would be doing at that time and focused on. And then socially, I feel like I'm a great time. Like, I love to hang out. I love to experience new things, which is why I travel and try to I get a high off new environments, new experiences, new people. And so I've been true to that. Even post motherhood, I've been true to what has made me tick, what refills my cup.
What has changed most about you with motherhood?
Motherhood for me has been I never wanted to be a mom to start, but I became a mom, and I'm thankful that I became a mom because of what it's taught me about me, but also about the opportunity to instill such wonderful foundational things in my daughter and put her on the journey to define her own success as well. So it's taught me a lot about kind of the way that I think and why I'm teaching her certain things. I often have to pause and say, is this something that was taught to me? And I've always, do what I say, not as I do, all these things. Why do you do these things? Because of that's how we've learned them to be done? Or is this because I believe this is what is going to equip her for success? So it's definitely caused a lot of introspection, a lot of intentionality, a lot of uncoupling again of things that maybe this is what I did in my upbringing because this was best at the time for my mother or for my home life. But in terms of my parenting, this may not be what I want to do. So it's definitely been a lot of thinking, introspection. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So how do you want to raise her? Obviously with your fiance, not saying, you know, just you, but
Yes.
how is like, you know, you want to look back and Yara is, I don't know, 22 and she's doing something awesome. Like what is something you want to give her so she can have without a shadow of a doubt, I know this or whatever. What is something like that you want her to know?
So I don't want her to be afraid of making mistakes. I don't want to insulate her from experiences that will educate her. Because I think sometimes you can kind of want to be like, oh no, don't do this, because you want to protect them and you know as a parent what that could look like. But only through those bumps, only through the mistakes, only through those hurdles can they really help to be sure of what they know. They haven't been told the stove is hot because someone told them. They've experienced it. They learned it for themselves.
Yeah.
And I think we have to create a safe space for our children to learn the way that's just for me. I think that's important. I also want her to be empowered to create the success that she wants for herself. You know, we both can say, you know, lawyer, doctor, those are the rules for us. And that's fine because our parents knew about what the economic time was at that, you know, and about success and what would be more of a sure shot for you to succeed. And so that's the way that they, you know, projected their wishes on us. But I don't really want to pigeonhole her at all. I just want her to be true to herself, be sure of why she wants to do it. And even if she's not sure down the line, like be sure in the moment, let's talk about it, let's explore it. If this is the best choice for you, all right, let's do it. I'm going to support you. And so that's what I really want for her journey, just to feel supported no matter what choice she makes.
So you spoke about your fiance being in frontline politics and you having like this really big job, being very busy. You guys have a young toddler. Like, how do you find time for each other?
It is a constant quest to make space for it, to be honest. It is very easy to kind of just get into the routine of things, get into and miss each other because you know, he's got caucus, he's got this, he's got a press conference. And I'm like, well, what about, I have a report to you as well. But we do find time to meet in the middle. And I find that he is very understanding and will make sacrifices as I do for what is best for Yara. And so compromise, but we do have to be intentional about the time that we spend with each other.
Yeah. So obviously having a kid, there's no like date nights as much as it used to be anymore. Like, has that transition from like, you know, couple living life, being free to parents, like how has that changed?
It's limited us because we want to be there for her as much as we can. I know for me, I won't leave the house before 8 because that's her bedtime. So I'm more intentional about me spending time with her before she goes to bed. And thankfully she sleep trains. She doesn't wake up in the night. But I can go out after that and live life and fill my cup afterwards. So it's changed kind of the way and the timing of what we may do. But I think that we've still been similarly intentional about doing things that fill our cup and doing things that make ourselves happy. I knew after after I lost my twins, which I think I've shared with you already, I had like I lost myself a little bit. And, you know, it comes up in postpartum and you're questioning, you're thinking of it as failure. And when I was blessed with Yara, I didn't want to lose myself in the journey that was motherhood. I wanted to live through my motherhood. And so that doesn't mean my life is on pause now until she gets 18. It's that my life will support her life and support her development, but I'm not going to stop living either. So,
how did you make it through that time where you lost your twins?
So it was 2020, and we were talking earlier that 2020 was a wild time.
I was going to slip it in then, but I was like, no.
Yes, no, it's fine. And I actually looked in the calendar, and I wasn't intentional about marking the date, but it was February in 2020 that I actually did lose them. And I was like, whoa, it's a little like full circle now. And my daughter will now be 2 in a month. And it's like, wow, like look how far I've come emotionally. I know myself a lot more as well. But it was you're asking yourself the whys, you know, you're wondering, is there anything I could have done to do this differently? You are trusting, you know, the medical professionals to give you the best advice for you at the time. But it also told me to really trust myself, because I think I've often double thought when I knew better, but I double thought a lot of things. And it, there isn't necessarily one specific thing that would have prevented the loss, etc. But experiencing it and the questions that I was asking, and even, you know, consulting other people afterwards, I really had to trust my instincts, trust what didn't quite feel right in certain moments. And so that's what it taught me. And again, there wasn't anything in particular that would have saved them, but I'm thankful even for that journey. And when I look back now, having two of Yara would have been a journey. I don't even journey.
Yeah.
So, and I remember even interacting with your uncle, when I first found out that they were, I mean, I was shocked. I was like, who's having twins? Like, not me. You're not looking at my, like, who? Yeah. And identical twin boys. So I had met with your uncle in a space. I can't remember, we were canvassing or something. And I remember in my mind thinking, I don't even think he knows. I'm like, wow, like, what if they're like these, you know, the main is main? What is that going to be like? And that pressure, not pressure to be like them, but the pressure of raising successful males is a pressure in and of itself in today's society. And so it was definitely a rock bottom experience. It was very emotional. I felt like I had failed. And I had failed, like I felt like I failed them, even although there wasn't anything that could be done. You know, I was on bed rest. I was in the hospital for like probably a month before it happened. Like every day, I was just in the hospital, and Shay came multiple times a day. I was lonely, you know, and people who knew, but I've often kind of been private about my life. But I also think there is value in failing publicly, and not failing publicly to bring on the scrutiny, but to show people about what life's journey can look like.
Absolutely.
So I definitely was very, very, I had to rebuild myself and rebuild my confidence. And thankfully I was fortunate enough to have my daughter afterwards. But
yeah, you're absolutely right. I had no idea any of that. Not saying that I needed to, but it wasn't anything like that. It was more so you really did. You fell off the map essentially, and like you just didn't see you, and then it was just kind of like, you know, what happened, and you have to give people that time to heal and talk about it when they want to talk about it, and sometimes people don't. You know what I mean? But I do appreciate women who kind of come forward and not necessarily normalize it, but normalize it. You know, because it happens a lot more.
So much
than people know about, and it's simply because people don't talk about it, because it's a really sad time. It's really difficult to go through, and you know, sometimes couples don't come back from that. I have a friend that was like that, and so being open about it in your time that you want to, I think is vital.
I agree. It's definitely about that time, and for you it has to be when you feel most confident. And I think I'd done like a Facebook or Instagram
post. That's what I was just about to say. That's how I found out. It was like
and that was just cathartic for me, getting my truth out there to help other people. And the people that were sending me DMs, like, whoa, like that was so brave. And it really wasn't even for them. It was just about, these things happen, right? Like life happens, and the journey is what strengthens you.
No, I completely understand that. So who would you say is like your biggest, I guess, motivation or inspiration in life? Or what? Who or what?
I think I have a community and a village of people who have really been helpful and supportive, and have celebrated me even in my darkest times, and have helped to motivate me to continue on. Again, even when it doesn't look like it's perfect, or even when it doesn't look like there's a plan at play, like there are people who have been, you know, sent on my journey to support me in publicly, and sometimes, you know, silently. And I'm thankful even for those spaces and those people who've just been intentional about pulling me up and lifting me up.
Yeah, I love that. And then when you think of like successful Alexa, like what does success look like to you?
Success for me is having lived a purposed life. My life was I fulfilled my purpose would be success. And I
Okay.
think I really had to uncouple even ideas about what my life would look like and just live. Not overly obsessed with what it should be, not overly obsessed about what I saw others doing, but being sure that what I did was what I was meant to do. And so I heard somebody say recently, like, not every good opportunity is the right opportunity for you.
Yeah.
And so that has really been something that has resonated with me, being decisive about opportunities that just may not be for me, even though I have been, gifted or talented to do well in that space. It may not be the right opportunity for me. And I find myself drawn to environments that are for me. And those I kind of just feel like, this doesn't quite feel as good. So maybe not.
And being okay with that too, right?
And being okay.
Because sometimes we're like, you know what, that isn't for me, but we feel FOMO, or like we're in these positions where it's just kind of like, oh, well, maybe I should have done that. But being comfortable to sit in that decision that you made and appreciating it, and not just doing it because, I'm just taking this moment for me, when you really wanted to do it in the first place. Like sitting in that decision, I think is super important as well.
Agree.
But yeah. I'm telling you, girl, life comes at you full
listen,
circle
it
sometimes.
comes. Tell me about it. It just hits you like.
So if like a young woman came up to you and she just wanted like advice, like something that you would tell them at 18 that you learned, to who you are now, what would you kind of say to her?
It's okay with being okay. And whatever you set out for yourself, be flexible enough to adjust. So this may be your plan today and you realize, I'm going to pivot, but silence the noise and just be true to what you feel drawn to, what you feel like you're good at, or what you may be interested in. Just follow it. Like, just go, and your purpose, your calling, your gift will make space for you. Like, literally, it will. And I've seen it to be true, and I've always looked back like, what? Like, things that I never even imagined, or experiences that I never imagined would happen, but I always may have wanted them. It would happen, like, without having to just overly manipulate. And manipulate is relative, because you want to inform yourself, you want to educate yourself so you can be, competent, right? But just being flexible enough to follow the journey and just follow your gifts. Yeah.
Lex, girl, we worked through these. Like, that was good. Really, really good. So my last question that I ask everyone, every episode, is when you are no longer on this planet and someone says Alexa Lightbourne, or if that name were to change one day, what do you want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered for being a woman who was sure about her purpose and lived out loud, lived colorfully as she was on that quest and pursuit to do so, and pulling other people up while doing so, right? I think, it's so important to create spaces for other people to shine as well. Not, because even in our spaces, in spaces where a lot of women are, there is that underlying, jealousy, catty behavior that isn't always overt, but it's that like undertone, right? And so even, an opportunity like this, I initially shied away from it.
I know.
But thankful, like, because it just allows you to kind of have that opportunity to share your journey. So thank you for that. So I want to definitely be known for just living in my purpose. So.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think, you brought up, being catty and, women that underline kind of, as my dad would call it, haterade, right? Like, we have to be in a space where we have great friends, right? Like, I think of our mutual friends, all these amazing women doing amazing things. And we have to let people shine and live in their moment and know that, okay, cool, Lex is doing amazing right now. And I'm happy for her, and being genuinely happy for her, even if I'm not where I'm ready to be yet. And that's okay. It's not my time, but celebrating those wins and being there for your friends and showcasing dope women, as I say in my intro.
Yes, no, thank you. And again, I think you are amazing for walking in what your gifts and the things that you've kind of set out for yourself. So continue to do it, and your gifts will make space for you. It's gonna shine.
Every time, girl. Let's hope.
Oprah adjacent.
Oh gosh,
here we go.
You're pushing it now, girl.
Come on,
it. Not auntie.
The sky's the limit. You
there
never
you
know,
go,
right?
There
you never
go.
Because you're doing it because you genuinely feel the need to do so, right? So I feel like the sky's the limit when you are genuinely doing it, not doing it for this or doing it for that. You're doing it because this is what you love and enjoy. So I feel like the sky's the limit. Limits don't work well with me. So
they don't. I'm not gonna lie. Like
today
was hard. This morning was hard. I said to Lara when she came in, I was like, I'm struggling today. Like I'm tired. I had probably the longest week of my life this week, and sometimes you just want to be like, ugh, I don't feel like it today. But it's so crazy because out of everyone that we've interviewed today, everyone, it was just kind of like, okay, this is why. You know what I mean? Like I've gotten something from it. So you're right. Everything happens for a reason.
Yes, definitely. Everything happens for a reason. Like everything. So yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
I'm happy.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And I'm so glad you said yes because I knew you were nervous. So.
I was.
But yeah.
Definitely indecisive. But yeah, here we are. We
but
did it.
It worked out.
We rocked. We
made
it happen.
Yeah. All right, guys. So we had the lovely Alexa Lightbourne on the podcast today. If you want to learn more about Alexa, make sure you head over to the website, hustleherpodcast.com. In the show notes, you'll have her bio, all the amazing things that she's done. So if you want to learn more about her, make sure you head over there. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and like this episode. And then also sign up for our VIP list on the website so you can get some behind the scenes, some show notes, some giveaways that we might be having. And we can't wait to see you next time on Hustle Her Podcast.